You're listening to Entrepreneur's Enigma, a podcast about the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial journey. Every week, your host Seth Goldstein interviews entrepreneurs from all walks of life about their entrepreneurial journeys. From store owners to Fortune 500 CEOs, we all have stories to tell. So sit back and join us for the next 20 or so minutes while we explore the entrepreneurial world.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneur's Enigma podcast. I am, as always, your host, Seth. Today I have a great buddy of mine. I've known Ansinn, for 10, 14,
I think we're well over 10 years. I think that's some COVID.
Yeah, I think when I moved to Duels Town in 2010. So 10 years would have been 2020, the pandemic.
So I think it's about 14 years. I was going by my recollection.
15 years. I feel bad for you, buddy. I feel bad for you. You've known me for that long. I think I knew you before I moved to Duels Town, actually. So there you go. I think I met Chuck and I met you and the whole Duels Town crazies.
Back when people were just discovering social media and putting it to some kind of work. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, back when Twitter was Twitter and Twitter was actually good and not evil, that kind of thing. Yep. I will never call it X. I don't care. It's never going to be X. It's Twitter. May it rest in peace.
We probably won't have to worry about calling it anything eventually.
I know. It's not in Brazil anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
He's like, I'm not dealing with Brazil. And Brazil's like, fine, don't deal with us. Get out of here. It's like, cool. Oh, my God. Well, anyhow, that is the man about town in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Anyone who is worth their salt knows that. He is frequently seen strolling, scurrying, running around Doylestown. He is the founder and president of BrickSimple LLC, a software development studio specializing in cutting-edge mobile, virtual reality, augmented reality applications. And I'm sure more stuff than that. That's what's on his bio. I think he does more than that. But then he's also, since July 2020, he's the CTO and interim chief executive officer of NeuroAlert.
Now I am the CEO of NeuroAlert.
He's not interim anymore.
Now CEO of NeuroAlert, yeah.
There you go. NeuroAlert is really neat. It helps detect stroke symptoms in hospitalized patients. Now, and he's also a board member of Startup Bucks. And the reason I mentioned that kind of offhandedly is because I heard about NeuroAlert through Startup Bucks's, I think it was, 1 million cups at that point?
Yeah, it was one of the very first Bucks built grant recipients way back.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And so this thing's really cool because strokes are one of the hardest things to detect until after you have one. And you start slurring your speech, which, I swear I did not have a stroke. I just slur my speech. But literally when the hospital patients, it happens a lot with hospital patients. And this technology, I'll let you talk about it a little bit, helps detect it before it really gets bad. Or does it detect it before it happens?
The key thing is we can detect with NeuroAlert's technology, we can detect 75% of strokes in less than an hour. The median time to detect a stroke in a hospital is 5+ hours. The challenge with that is the thrombolytics, the various therapies provided for stroke aren't really very effective after 4 hours. So we are detecting strokes much earlier for a better outcome for the patients. Yeah. We've started our pilot study for our clinical trial. We've got an approved clinical trial design, so that's all in progress. And I recently became CEO as we had our original CEO that we had hired and brought on board had some health issues and had to step aside. So I stepped in and very intense period of having the clinical trial. We're doing a $2 to $3 million debt round right now. It's exciting. The product's exciting, and it's one that I've been involved with for a good bit.
Yeah, so you're bored out of your mind.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, this guy doesn't sleep. I mean, I know you sleep. But I mean, between that and BrickSimple, because BrickSimple's always up to something.
I've got a great team that runs Brick. Yeah. They ran Brick when I was CTO of Rogue Fitness, which is a internationally known brand of manufacturer of fitness equipment and CrossFit equipment. I've got a great team that runs that, and I always look at my schedule schedule's like a goldfish and will grow to fit the bowl. And
that's kind of true, yeah.
You make time for things. You make time for the nonprofit, make time for the nonprofit work. Also, wear a hat as an angel investor with Delaware Crossing, And, you really find ways to do that. And I am involved in another startup that's an early stage startup that does postpartum hemorrhage detection. So with a
Jeez.
very innovative product there. So
does your wife ever see you?
She does. I mean, more so since the pandemic with I used to fly all over the place, but
I know.
yeah,
Where's debt in the world?
It's really interesting. I mean, and I've had thus far, I've had 4 exits of companies I've built and things I've sold and done.
That's
that.
pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So it's just, you keep going, you don't stop, basically.
Exactly. But Brick Simple was your first baby, right?
I've had a few babies. The history of Brick Simple.
Yeah, fill me on that.
Yeah. So what happened is that I originally used the Brick Simple name for various shareware things. This back in the 90s. And I had joined up firm where I was the first employee of a startup, and we grew it to 100 some odd people. I had 85 people reporting underneath me. And I wanted to do something different. And that's what led to the founding of Brick Simple. I left that amazing job. I was paid really well. And I left and embarked to do Brick Simple, not as a part-time shareware thing, but as a full-time gig. And that company, has been around since the end of 2001. It was incorporated after Labor Day in 2001. So 23 years of Brick Simple. It's gone through different variations. The first few years of the company, the first 6 years of the company, it was a product company with an innovative web technology product. After that, we really became a mobile application development shop, building some of the most popular apps in the App Store. And then from there, we got into doing everything from VR, AR, lots of IoT, and we've been doing AI for more than a decade.
We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show. You were one of the first people with the Google Glass. I remember you were one of the dorks walking around Duels Town with Google Glass. Well, actually, in your defense,
they were Brick Simple. They're a Brick Simple team. The history we had with that. I mean, we did the first medical device integration with Google Glass, first automotive integration, first game on glass. But the thing I'm most proud of is work that we did with artist David Datuna. We did an art installation. We premiered at Art Basel in Miami. We had a dedicated space down there. We started the New World Symphony in the dedicated space. We did Lincoln Center with that. And eventually we did the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery, where we broke...
Oh, that's all.
We broke what was a 37-year-old record for attendance at the National Portrait Gallery. And it was incredible. Wow. And the work that we did on that project was actually turned into an award-winning documentary. It aired on PBS. It aired for Congress. I can provide a link for that one too. It's
please put it on the show notes. Yeah,
quite adventure. We won best film of the festival, Rain Dance things. I did the whole all that stuff. I mean, when you start out in tech, you don't expect to be doing all these many different things. But I think for me, those experiences are what make tech fun. Yeah.
It's fun, and I think you're definitely one of the guys I think he's had a lot of fun with his different variations of Brick Simple. And then now everything else under the sun. I mean, literally, it's like, hey, Dad, what are you up to now? And it's like 5 different things. And I see you probably like once or twice, a quarter. And so you're always up to something. And it's kind of fun to kind of follow Dad's journey through. I mean, I've known you for 15 plus years. And different variations of different things, and it's really, you live the entrepreneurial life, which is really awesome.
I think, a big part of it is that, you kind of approach things. I mean, I grew up a very simple and limited means. There was a portion where family was on assistance, really limited. Wow. And, I always looked at things not really having a safety net per se. So, you kind of make bold decisions. I mean, when I was at Drexel, the irony of being commencement speaker, my wife and I funded a scholarship endowment there. But the irony of being, that is when I was at Drexel, I was incredible. I was paying my own way through school. I was working 30 hours a week. I would go to the Pathmark, the old Pathmark that was in Warminster here, not to bring it so local for your listeners and viewers. But at the Pathmark, they would have those shopping carts that you'd have to put a quarter in to take the cart.
I remember that, yeah.
I would go there at night and gather up the loose carts to get the quarters. And that's what I would use to eat the next day at school.
Oh, wow. You think most college kids are broke? You were broke.
I was broke. There's broke and there's broke. But I was disenrolled from Drexel a few times because I did not have enough money to make tuition. They said it's only $200. Like, I literally don't have $200. And I had professors carry my grades over, do those things. And that for my wife and I, we actually
you were in school when you were married when you were in school.
I not get married till my senior year, but my wife and I have since what we've done this scholarship endowment that we founded. Drexel calls it Operation Graduation, which basically for senior year, like students who are struggling to pay tuition, that's what our scholarships helps out with. Like people who are almost there to get through.
God.
So
can you imagine
paying it forward.
Can you imagine being a senior and not having enough to just get the last 4 to 6 credits, get through the co-op, which Drexel's known for? Oh my God. I
lived that journey. I was white knuckle the whole way through, and being able to do that and being in the position that I'm lucky to be in now to be able to go and help that out is important for me. I mean, you can only have so many fun toys. I mean, toys are toys, but really
follow Det on Instagram. You'll see his fun toys. He has toys.
I have toys, but the thing is like even doing that. I had my most recent exit was on August 23, and I didn't care about house stuff. I didn't care about cars or motorcycles or.
You probably had all the things you wanted at that point. Yeah,
had everything. It's just so for me, it's like, okay, what are we gonna do? We're gonna fund the scholarship endowment. We're gonna do other donations and contributions to various orgs, and that's in my. I'm very much in my pay it forward mode. As my hair is increasingly gray.
There you go. The gray, you go grayer, the more you pay it forward. I love that.
Yeah.
And you were also one of the brave souls to be the borough. You were borough council president.
I was the borough council president for a decade in Duels Town. Did a lot of things during my tenure. I served 2 years as just a regular council member, and then I was council president for a decade.
It's a thankless job. Being like on the township, being at the very bottom of the political spectrum, is probably the most demanding because people don't pay attention enough to it.
They don't. Journalists, you don't pay attention to it. We did though. What we got accomplished. We have a green energy ordinance this town. We have breastfeeding protection ordinances. Pennsylvania doesn't have LGBT protections. Duels Town Borough does. I regionalized the police department. I did a lot of things while I was in, and that has resulted. Even the borough hall. The borough hall got moved, and that's a process that started under me. And it was 12 years. I mean, it's a lot of sacrifice. I do have to say that the time I spent, those 12 years if I spent that on business pieces in that time, I probably would have had another company and exit in the mix on top of the
but it's not rewarding.
It's a lot of personal sacrifice. You don't make a dime doing it, but you help a community that you love and you care about.
And Duels Town's so special. It's just a special little nugget of a town. I mean, it's gorgeous. And I honestly say it's because of part of your tenure there is why it's so good, is because it's accepting. I mean, if you go, to regionalize this again, you go about 4 or 5 miles north, it gets increasingly red. You go 4 or 5 minutes south, it's purple.
Yeah.
But it is below in Duels Town.
The borough of Duels Town is really a wonderful, welcoming place. It's there. There are other towns, as much as I love Duels Town. I think it's that asset of community. And
it is. It's very big, very strong community.
People, you can watch your various cable news networks. And, that's not about your community. It's not about what's the end of your driveway. And I think one of the things that's really sad is the death of the local paper.
I know.
It has those things that bind people together, be it the high school football team, what's happening in the town and community. And here in Bucks County, we have the Herald, which is now run by a nonprofit. But
God bless them. Thankless job.
That daily local paper, the death of the daily local paper.
The Intelligencer. Yeah,
the Intelligencer. It's just there's not those.
For better, for worse, they couldn't spell check worth their salt. You go through it with a red pen, but other than that, it was daily. I worked in daily papers.
I once had my name misspelled in the Intelligencer 3 times in one article.
3 times?
In one article. So it was actually spelled 3 different ways in one article, yeah.
In one, that's talent.
It's the thing. But no, I miss those. But I think we lose sight of that when we look at ways to have community. I think that
the patch still exists, shockingly.
Yeah, the one positive thing with community, though, is that when you look at the pandemic, I think that it got people more aware of the digital aspects of community. Mm-hmm. But I think we waxed before we started the show here. We waxed nostalgic on that pre before social media was broken, and that early days of how you connected people who just happened to be both checking in at a coffee place. That
Foursquare, remember Foursquare?
Foursquare,
You
yes,
were the mayor like half the time.
Yes, I was competitive mayor, but that aspect of connecting with people, I think, even more important. And a tragedy is that social media platforms, by losing their trust, that they no longer serve as that kind of connectivity and connective glue.
Yeah, it really
and
stinks.
This is something where I do think, for me, it's the great value of that, knowing who your neighbors are, knowing those people around you in your community really are helpful. And whether it's the tech community, whether it is your social community with your child, or your temple or your church, having that community glue is really important.
It's very important. So now to the 3 questions I ask everybody here.
Sure.
What is the best thing about being an entrepreneur in your mind? Because you've done it for forever.
I like to think of entrepreneur as being a fancy word for unemployable.
That's pretty true. Yeah,
But
I
think that for me, it's the change. I mean, I've had friends who, at this point, we've all been out of school a long time, 30 some odd years, that for my friends, you're doing the same thing. You did that. You built a career. You climbed up in an organization to do that same thing. I think for me, it's that variety, and it's the variety. The fact that you could do something at the Smithsonian, and then you're doing something to go and detect strokes and doing that. I think tech in particular, being a tech entrepreneur, is that variety that keeps things going. It keeps the brain definitely moving.
Now, on the other side, what keeps you up at night? Besides Timmy and the kids.
The nice thing is that I'm out on that tail end of things. I mean, I have, my oldest is getting married. I've got the middle one who's a senior year in her senior year at the University of Oklahoma. And then my son is a junior in high school.
He's like a local celebrity. Timmy's like a local celebrity. Everyone's seen Timmy grow up.
They saw him grow up in this town. They did. But I think that, that kind of thing, I do subscribe to you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. I think what keeps me up at night is that when I talk with startup founders and not understanding, it's one thing, like you always take a look at the slice. So you look at the slice of where I am today, like, oh, he's got all this stuff. I started out as basic and all that work and sacrifice you had to go through. I do get a little frustrated where some founders really don't understand that moxie, some young founders. I try to do my best to coach and help out, and some really get it and are hitting it. But the amount of work I think people underestimate. And the entrepreneur thing is all about risk, and the amount of work that you have to put into it, what you have to stand behind, how you have to go forth. For entrepreneurship in general in this country, which really represents to me that kind of ultimate freedom.
Yeah.
It is at risk if we do those things. And when you see private equity buying up all those little mom and pop shops and that kind of thing, I think those kinds of things, if you are impairing or encumbering the ability of people to start new businesses, if they're willing to put in that energy and desire and do that, if you are making that no longer viable, I think that you are hurting the socioeconomic mobility in this country, and you're hurting the prospects for those folks doing that. So that's a very sophisticated issue that keeps me up at night, but that is so I think about those macro things, because that is, I'm at the point where
you're in the macro phase of your journey.
I'm at the age where I am I used to be the youngest guy in the room, and now I'm often the oldest guy in the room. I'm at that age where I take those things very seriously, and I'm always willing to help and mentor where I can to make sure people are successful.
Okay, and then what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time? You can go as woo as you want to go on this one. The most important thing to carry with you all the time.
Are we talking the spiritual aspect, piece of technology, or
whatever you want to do?
I think for me is that don't sell yourself out. Like I basically, for me, if I've done nothing else, at least my integrity and character stands there in what I do. And in the business world, you're going to run into a whole bunch of people who don't have that integrity and character.
Oh.
And for me, that's the most important thing to, and how you govern everything in your life and how you're acting with people, how you're doing that. You say you're going to do a thing, you do it. Admittedly, my calendar gets jammed up and I don't get to do all the things in the time that I'd like to. And it takes longer, but have that. I think that's something really important. It's important when you're going through those things.
That's awesome. So Det, you're a very busy man. We're at the 20-minute mark. I said it was going to be 20 minutes, and it's perfectly 20 minutes. Where can people find you online? Where do you hang out the most?
I don't hang out online much. I used to be a prolific on social media.
You are everywhere.
On my LinkedIn,
literally.
on occasionally you'll see me post an update on my LinkedIn of something that I'm doing. If you, Instagram is just my car and motorcycle nonsense things, like toys I like
But
to
it's
play
fun
with.
to watch.
It is entertaining, but I think largely, to do that, I'm around. I attend events in the Philly region. I do that. I attend events elsewhere in the country. I used to do a lot more speaking when there were really cool events pre-pandemic, and those things seem to ramp up. But yeah, I mean, I just, hit me up on LinkedIn if you want to hit me up or bounce. That's probably the best bet. And I'm not on Twitter, X, or Musk, whatever they call it this week for that. I'm not on that platform. I'm not on Facebook, aside from account to use a VR headset. But yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best bet.
Good for you. And you're only Det, I know. DET.
DET.
Like, seriously, I don't think
it's the good kind without the B.
Yeah, without the B. Exactly.
It's Ted spelled backwards. So
it is. Never thought about that way. Awesome, Det. Well, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad. I can't believe we haven't gotten you on before this. I mean, like, I've known you for so long. You live down the street from me. I'm like, how did I get Det on? So we were having drinks one day, and I'm like, wait, I haven't had you on the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast yet. I'm like, let's do this.
But that's the thing I was saying. Part of the busyness and things I'm at is that I don't necessarily get time to do some of those other side things. And when we gathered together the other day, just wanted to make sure that we got together to do this because it's important. Yes. I try to slot that in, and
I appreciate it.
I slot weeks of lunches and breakfasts and things with folks.
You batch them.
Well, you have to, you got to make room to do that because if you don't, it doesn't happen. And
you'll burn out. You will seriously burn out if you don't take a break every now and then.
But I think one of the things that's really important with folks in doing that is that, I try to, every opportunity I have, I tell them, do not be transactional with folks.
Mm-hmm.
Build relationships, do that. And, if you're going to be transactional with people, people will be transactional with you in return. And that's not what you want. The world is
not fun. Especially
as you're going clicking here as I'm coming up to the 6th decade thing. That's what you want to have. So, yep.
Yeah. Awesome.
Great.
And we'll see everyone next time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Seth.
That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please consider giving us a review in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps us reach new listeners. If you like Entrepreneurs Enigma, consider the other shows on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net.
Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.